I don't know how you found us, but I'm glad you did. It's the If It's Sports Podcast.
Hey everyone, it's Jacob the Intern. I hope you had a Merry Christmas and got some time off unlike me. Josh and Trav have me back in the studio chopping up clips, trying to make another Best of Us episode. If you guys take a week off and leave me here, of course I'm going to start the Best of show off of when I hosted One Up. Welcome everyone to One Up. I'm your host, Jacob the Intern. Around the table I've got Josh, aka Never Wrong, and Trav, aka Always Right. In my hand are 3 questions, and I'm sure these two are ready to talk just to hear themselves talk. In the end, we'll be right where we started, as neither will admit the other has a valid point. Question 1. This one goes to Trav. The NFL uses a folded piece of paper to determine a first down in the Dallas-Oakland game. Is it time for a change from the chains?
No, we have to keep these traditional values entrenched in the game that we all love, called football. We got to keep these old school values, the legacy and the rules of the game in place. The game started with the chain gang, 10 yards of chain that these guys hold during the game. You got to keep it. The index card was used in that game. That made for great TV. But, it comes down to the fact this is not a perfect science when you're using these chains. You're relying on the referee to run across the field, and he's either going to give you that left foot or he's going to give you that right foot. You might get that first down, you might not. It's not always going to be 100% correct, but that's why we have instant replay and, 10 different camera angles so we can determine where the ball was down at. So, these refs are just out here, just to give us an idea where that ball's down at. We can always go to instant replay. Got to keep the human element in the game. Stick with the sticks in this one.
Trav, I want you to show me your sundial that you use for keeping time. Can you show me your abacus that you use when you do your taxes? If I want to get up with you, should I send you a message via carrier pigeon? Times have changed. Technology has evolved. We're still using a system in the NFL that Daniel Boone used to measure the West. So it's time for them to get away from that. Don't romanticize the chains on the sidelines. It's time for the NFL to start the process to change. There's too many options out there to address this right now that can be more accurate and speed up the time of play. If lasers, GPS, and sensors under the field, they're available, just put them in play. The NFL needs a goal to have the sticks and chains gone by 2021.
Josh, you're one up. After Josh got the first question, Trav came back with fire on the last 2, and here you can hear the air go out of Josh's sail as he thought he was the winner of our one-up segment. Josh, congratulations, you're runner-up to Trav.
Oh.
Trav, you're 2 up, you win.
Yeah. You play to win the game.
Thank you all for listening to the one-up segment. If there's a topic or question you'd like Josh and Trav to talk about on the next episode, just let us know.
All right, thanks, Jacob the Intern.
Good job, Jake.
That wasn't the only time Josh was hit with a tough loss on the show. Here's a clip from episode 16 when the Eagles traveled to Seattle and got beat up by the Seahawks and the 12th man.
Top story's got to be that win by Seattle over your Eagles. Your Eagles did fall to those Seahawks in the Battle of the Birds.
That was a tough one. That was set up at 8:30, a primetime game on Sunday night. Had to travel out to Seattle. I think some of the players said that they didn't get the prep that they're used to on that one. Not making excuses for them. It's one that a young team needs to kind of buckle down there and get that win on it. But it was a good learning experience for them. This is a playoff type atmosphere that was up there in Seattle. They've got to really show up and come to play in that one. Couldn't keep Russell Wilson in containment. That was the whole story of the game. Just when you thought you had him, he was able to roll out just a little bit to the right, roll out to a little bit to the left, break containment, and then just hit somebody down the field for 10, 15 yards.
I've been saying this for weeks, Josh. This guy's elusive. This guy's slippery. You got to take that extra step and go and grab him. You cannot leave your feet. You cannot try to reach for him. you've got to take that extra step and wrap him up, or he will get away from you.
Yeah.
I've been telling you this for weeks.
It's crazy. I mean, on paper, he shouldn't be as good as he is. I mean, he's a short quarterback. He's got a long wind up in his throwing motion, but he overcomes all that. I mean, he's just super elusive. During the telecast, I heard they compared him to Randall Cunningham, Michael Vick,
Fran Tarkenton.
to Steve Young. I mean, when you're in that type of class of quarterbacks, you're in a special class of quarterbacks, and he definitely was. Now, there was a play in the game that I kind of thought, broke it open or changed the.
Yeah, one play. That's one play, man. That's one play in the game.
It's one play in it, but they did score on this one. If you got the stop, it was third down. You could have got the ball back on it. It looked like he did forward lateral the ball. I mean, there's been a lot of debate that's out there on that, but I think in all interpretations of the rule, it was a forward lateral. It's on the coaching staff of Philadelphia. Even if they don't think that's a lateral, crucial part of the game, you've got to throw that red flag out there, I believe, just to have the booth review it.
Yeah, but once again, Russell Wilson makes the play when he needs to make the play, and, he's rewarded for it. But like you mentioned earlier, this was a playoff-type atmosphere. I had that actually in my notes. These are the kind of games you're going to have to win. This is a playoff atmosphere-type game, so I'm just not completely sold on the Eagles just as of yet. Can they win these type of games on the road when it counts in a hostile environment? So we gotta wait and see.
I think we get the answer to that question maybe this week coming up. They've got to go down to Los Angeles and play the Rams.
So another road game.
Another tough
road game.
That should be one. Do you learn from this one? Let's see how they rebound on that. But that's a great point. I'm interested to see how that plays out.
The following week in episode 17, it wasn't any better. Josh was so distraught after the Carson Wentz injury, Trav had to start the show off.
I don't know how you found us, but I'm glad you did. It's the If It's Sports Podcast, episode number 17. All right, my name's Trav. I got my main man Josh here with me. I know some of you guys are wondering why I'm leading off the episode this week, but Josh is a little bit down this week. As you all probably know, his Eagles had a rough weekend. They did lose their starting quarterback, so he's a little down right now. One way you can help Josh pick his spirits up a little bit would be to head on over to the iTunes or Google Play music stores. Go ahead and search for If It's Sports. That way you guys can subscribe to our podcast and stay up to date with all the latest episodes.
It's football. I've been watching it for 40 years. 40 years.
NFL Week 14, big stories. Let's get right into the breaking news. Carson Wentz, the starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, has been ruled out with an ACL injury for the rest of the season. Looks like he tore his left ACL, Josh. I know that's been some rough news for you this weekend. How you doing with that, man?
It's been a very difficult last 12 hours. The emotions have been a roller coaster. I don't know. I'm struggling right now, Trav. I'm struggling.
Yeah, that's a tough one to take. I mean, anytime you lose your starting quarterback, especially when your team is in playoff contention, I mean, you guys were favorites to be in that Super Bowl. That just adds to the league's injury list of big names being out for the season. Another big quarterback out. This just looked like a freak injury to me, Josh. He was diving for the end zone. Most ACL injuries are with the foot planted in the ground in some kind of way with some kind of force coming towards the outside of the knee, pushing it in. This looked to be just a freak injury with him diving, feet off the ground, two players kind of hitting him from opposite directions. You could kind of see his leg kind of, move awkwardly there. I think some are even saying, some of the doctors may even be saying it happened on his step before he dove for the end zone. I didn't really see it there. Regardless, you did lose your quarterback for the season. He's out with the ACL. You've got Nick Foles as your backup. He is 8-2 as an Eagle. going back to 2013, he did have the best touchdown to interception ratio, 27 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. He did make the Pro Bowl that year. How do you feel about Nick coming in as your backup?
I think he's going to be a serviceable quarterback. I think, really the main thing is, can he get the timing in this short of a time with the wide receivers really to get into the flow of the game. Another thing is Nick Foles hasn't been the most durable quarterback throughout his whole career. Something that you've got to worry about there. If he gets banged up, I think it's definitely over with for the Eagles there. So we've got to protect Nick Foles. The line hasn't been that great, and that's what Wentz was able to do was to make up for that deficiency at the line by moving the pocket, being a mobile quarterback there. We're definitely going to miss that. It's tough. We're definitely bought in and moving into Pennsylvania. I was really loving his sophomore season that he was having. I think he was up there for an MVP type candidate this year. There's a tough loss to have. This is typical Eagles fashion right here. We're always looking for that other shoe to drop. Not to get overlooked. We definitely won the battle there. Probably lost the war, but we were able to get that win over the Rams. It's a high scoring game there, 43-35. That's going to clinch a playoff spot for the Eagles. They're looking really good. Headed into the playoffs. Outside of the injury there to Wentz, they got some time to fine tune it in there. I don't think all hope is lost, but it's just a somber day for all Eagles fans. Eagle Nation sending out the speedy recovery to Wentz coming back next year, but we're looking at a different dynamic going into the playoffs for sure.
Definitely. Just to reiterate what you said with Foles, you are going to miss the escapability in the pocket that Wentz did bring to you. Just his leadership and, just everything he was bringing to your ball club. And, going back to earlier in the year, earlier in the podcast, you did talk about you were just kind of waiting to see what happened. You thought it might be a little bit more in the playoffs when something like this happened in the actual playoffs.
But I thought it was probably the NFC Championship game. We laid an egg or just didn't show up. But an injury like this, you can't expect anything like that. But it's definitely a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, and Wentz is, he is tough. The guy stayed in the game 4 more plays, ended up throwing a touchdown pass that gave you the lead. Yep. So, you've got a warrior at quarterback. He is a leader, so definitely just got to want to see him have a speedy recovery. Luckily, it just is the ACL, no other ligament damage, no MCL, no PCL, no LCL. So hopefully he has a speedy recovery and gets back at the helm for you guys.
While we are on the subject of injuries, let's listen back to episode 13 as Trav and Josh talk about the injury problem the NFL is facing this season.
Man, I think just what's really caught my eye, what I've really noticed over the last couple weeks of the NFL season, everybody talks about the protest and this and that. It's really affecting the NFL ratings. I think it's going to be injuries. The NFL is a sport out there that you're really not the individual player. These guys have to wear their helmet, so they're not that well known. But, right now, this season, if you look at this injury report and players that are out for the whole season, it's some really big-name players. I don't ever remember a season like this where this many big-name players off of really popular teams are missing in action.
A lot of big-name NFL players are out of action, Josh. Like you said, man, the NFL football itself is known as a team sport. Not a lot of individuality involved, where it is at times with some of the big names. But just not this many big name injuries. You're looking at Aaron Rodgers out, Andrew Luck,
huge
Odell
losses.
Beckham, J.J. Watt. So we're looking at game changers here. You're looking at 3 starting QBs out if you include Deshaun Watson in that.
A good shot for being Rookie of the Year, the way that he's been playing.
Definitely. 2 big defensive game changers right there with J.J. Watt, Richard Sherman going down with the torn Achilles, being out for the season.
Huge loss for both of those teams, changes their defenses completely.
Yeah, a lot of big-name players out. So, these are the players that people tune in on Sundays, to watch. You got Green Bay Packers fans that are tuning in to watch Aaron Rodgers play, and they're getting to see Brett Hundley right now.
Yeah, while I was on vacation there, we watched that game. It was a late evening game or late night game, and that was going to be a primetime game with Aaron Rodgers on, and it's Brett Hundley we've got, and that's it just wasn't a good game to watch. And the Packers clearly aren't the same type of team without Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if a team gets by with this little talent around him on offense, and Rodgers is just making everybody look good, and you see the deficiencies that they have now when a player like Hudley comes in there. You know, he's just he's not Aaron Rodgers.
He's just not making Aaron Rodgers type plays. He's letting the play clock run down Sunday and got it down to like 3 seconds and then called timeout when it was getting ready to be the end of the half.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just not the best move. And then, if you ask any young demographic out there who their favorite player is, it's definitely probably Odell Beckham Jr. At least he's in the top 2 or 3 on everybody's list. And without him on the field, that's a huge percentage of the market that's not able to watch their favorite player. It really hurts the Giants. I mean, the Giants, they just don't have any passing offense, really much offense going on at all.
And then you're looking at Andrew Luck being out for the Colts. I mean, this just changes the whole dynamic of their team. I mean, they're relying on Frank Gore, the old man in the backfield right now, to get wins for them and first downs.
That's right. So I mean, it's tough. I mean, it's something that the NFL is going to have to look at. They've taken away a lot of the contact in the preseason games. Some people say not having that contact in the preseason games leads to some of these injuries, that their bodies just aren't quite ready for it. Some people are saying that these Thursday night games should go away. The Richard Sherman injury, is that avoided if he's playing on a Sunday and not on a short rest on a Thursday night game?
Yeah, just the whole recovery time, like you're saying there with the Thursday night games, they're just not getting time to heal like their body needs. We talked about it in one of our earlier podcasts about the contact the players are not getting in the off season with the limited practices, due to the new collective bargaining agreements and whatnot. So these guys are just not getting to hit each other like they're used to. They're not getting padded practices that they need. I'm not sure if these guys are working out in the off season like some of the older players did, some of the old school greats did, But yeah, definitely something's going on when we're seeing this many injuries going on in the season. You have a few here and there that may be due to a questionable hit or something like that, or just something you can't avoid.
Right. There's always going to be some injuries.
But when you're having so many non-contact injuries like this,
something's going on.
Something's going on here.
Definitely.
Here's a quick clip from episode 17 when the guys put on their Cheesehead hats and hyped the Packers up too much.
Another big game, Green Bay at Carolina. Carolina, desperate for a win, another win. Green Bay, who possibly could have the man Aaron Rodgers back at the helm this week.
What would it be if Aaron Rodgers comes back, gets Green Bay hot, and gets them into the playoffs? I mean, that would be a heck of a comeback. You'd about have to consider Aaron Rodgers for the MVP because you'd see how much he actually means to this team.
Oh, yeah, it'd be a great story to see that happen.
Teddy B wasn't having any of that and called in to call out the Cheesehead duo in episode 18.
Now, we've seen another quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. He's run this fake spike attempt before. He traveled down to North Carolina to take on the Panthers. That was a big game for them.
Big game, Green Bay down in Carolina. Cam Newton and the Panthers came out with another victory. Big win. Cam ended up throwing for about 240 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think on that first drive, Christian McCaffrey touched the ball like 9 times. Ended up scoring on a 7-yard pass, so he was really involved in that first drive. Aaron Rodgers, you could definitely tell there was a little rust on him. He ended up throwing 3 picks, even though they did have a chance to win it in the end. He kept them close. Just too many turnovers in that game for the Pack, though, to overcome. But like I said, Aaron Rodgers is still looking rusty, and I think we've even found out that they've shut him down.
Yeah, shut him down for the year after they lost that game, and then the Falcons won on Monday night, so that kind of knocked them out of the playoff contention. Yeah, as rusty as he looked when Green Bay scored there, and then they got the onside kick, my expectation was that Rodgers was going to do it again and pull out some miracle. It didn't happen, but it was a valiant effort by him. Big, huge win by Carolina. Now, we kind of talked about this game a little bit last week, and we had a caller that actually called in and called us out on that. So let's go ahead and get to that clip.
Sorry, mister. North Carolina Panthers is going to win, man. Cam Newton is better than Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have a chance for you bunch of cheeseheads. And besides, the North Division doesn't have a chance to win ever. To get anything. And whatever they're going to get, they're going to get their ass kicked out very fast. And very soon, likely, all 4 teams in the North Division will all get kicked out. and no one's going to get to come back ever. So it's the way it goes, you bunch of losers over there. And if you don't like it, you can stick that where the sun don't shine.
Oh, Teddy B,
Oh,
thanks
man.
for that call. He called us out on
Teddy B.
being some cheeseheads.
He's a big-time North Carolina Panther fan.
Yeah, Teddy, call back in any time and drop that knowledge for us.
Somehow, Josh and Trav were able to get an interview with Keith Mister Jennings in episode 15. Here are some clips from it on the days back at ETSU and a future movie project Mister has in the works.
The city of Johnson City really embraced the team and yourself. I remember ETSU used to take tours of Northeast Tennessee and Southwest Virginia in the preseason, and you guys really had the whole region behind you. As a player, what was it like to have that level of support behind you and the team during those 3 and 4 years there?
I mean, it was incredible, man. I mean, I'm sure we owe a lot of that to Calvin Talford. You know, him being from that area, being from the Southwest Virginia area, and knowing that they probably haven't seen since him or probably ever will see again anybody that is as athletic as he was. And, you know, once we were able to get a guy like that in our program at East Tennessee, it just took us off to a whole nother level. You know, I know fans like to watch exciting basketball, and at that time, you know, shooting the three and dunking the basketball a lot, you know, only the major colleges were doing that. But next thing you know, you see this little school out of Johnson City throwing alley-oops and dunking and scoring all these points. You know, we turned some heads, and, you know, it was definitely a fun atmosphere to play in. Those fans in Johnson City always, the more we won, the more people showed up. So, you know, we knew we had to keep that going, and, you know, we did, and it was just a fun 4 years for me there.
Oh, yeah, it was a great 4-year career. You guys were on ESPN with clips there. Like you say, you changed, you know, kind of the way that some of these small schools are looked at. You know, during your time, you played in the tournament 3 years in a row at ETSU. And as a fan, you know, we were all fans of that team. Me and Trav both went to high school at Castlewood, so as soon as Calvin went there, you know, we were tracking that team every game. Our school would shut down when you all had a game that was on TV.
Oh, wow, yeah.
But
I think a lot of us got that support from our family and friends. You know, I think it was a great feeling for us knowing that.
Oh, definitely. Now, as a fan looking back there, you know, with those tournament games, I know that Iowa game is one that's hard for me not to say what if. But now that your playing days are over with and you look back, is there any of those games that you just say, you know, what if Greg and Calvin weren't hurt that game, or the Oklahoma game, it was a 1-point game?
Yeah, I mean, not the Oklahoma game, because we did have everybody then. We were just young.
Right,
you know, we were just all sophomores and freshmen then, so we really didn't have the experience, or we didn't have anybody on our team that could give us any direction on what to look for. But definitely my senior year, going into that tournament without Greg and without Calvin, oh, man, I definitely could say what if we would have had everybody then, because, you know, we were 28-4 going into that tournament, and getting a 10th seed was, you know, that wouldn't happen today. You know, anybody that wins 28 or 27 or 28 games, you're probably going to get a seed closer to your region, which will, you know, definitely put things a little bit better for you, considering how the Cinderellas can appear. So, yeah, definitely that my senior year, you know, not having Greg and Calvin, and we only lost by 3.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm almost sure if those two play, we win that game by at least 15.
And that sets up a big match against you and Duke, I believe, that year, wasn't it?
Yeah, that would have. That definitely would have. And, you know, Bobby Hurley, I know how good he was playing at that point, and I just didn't get a chance to play against him. But when we played against each other in the NBA, yeah, I pretty much felt like it would have been the same way in college.
Oh, yeah.
I hear you.
Definitely. Before we let you go, Keith, we've heard some rumblings going around about this movie, the Forever movie. It's supposed to be about the 4 years of ETSU making the big dance. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how it's coming along?
Yes, you know, like I said, I'm a historian of the game. I understand the impact that certain people have made, whether it be Division I or, you know, just playing in the NCAA tournament, things that I dreamed of doing as a young basketball player. And when my career was over, and you sit down and I write my book, and I sit down and I look at some things, and I was like, you know, I think Marty, Greg, and Calvin, you know, might be the only ones that could have possibly won 4 tournament titles consecutively. I said, and I wonder who else has done that.
Right.
And so it kind of got me thinking. I was like, well, this might be something good to speak about or write about, because as an athlete, your time comes and your time goes, and I'm far from a glory hound. But at the same time, I want people to respect what we accomplished, and if it gives anybody else any incentive that's a mid-major or low Division I that feels like things can't be done at a high level, then we wanted to show people, or I wanted to show people that I was a part of something that, that did that. So everything came into place once I just called my teammates and told them I was definitely considering doing something like this, and would you be interested in being in it? Of course, Calvin was the first one talking about, where my money at, man? Where my money at? And I was like, you should have thought about it before I did. You should have thought about it before I did. But other than that, they all have been super, super wonderful as far as working with my director and producer who's putting everything together. We got some great appearances from like Coach Robinson and Coach LaForce and Coach Peterson and some coaches that we played against,
Nice.
Just trying to get some insight of how they felt they had to deal with us as far as us stopping a lot of teams from winning championships during that time. And, some of these coaches felt really strong about their team. So, and then plus, the Buck brothers, we're really still close after all of this time. So we just wanted everybody to know that, the championships came, but the brotherhood still remains. And hopefully it'll be out around March, right before March Madness. And, hopefully we can make something big out of it.
Oh, well, definitely. When that movie gets ready to come out, we hope we can have you back and maybe do a little bit more promotion on it. That's, I know this whole region around here would be super excited to see something like that.
Yes. No doubt. We'll give you guys a special in-depth interview with Calvin and Marty and Greg, the main ones, and myself, and then the guys that I came in with. Yeah, we'll do something special for you guys if you guys would like.
Oh,
Nice.
we would love that.
Appreciate that.
They tried for some clickbait with the Tigers back headlines, but I got to give them credit. They did break down his return and give a good outlook for Tiger in episode 16.
And the headlines, if you went to any website there, I think they're saying, is Tiger back? I think it's running out of time that the media can keep asking that. But, did he seem back to you?
Tiger did seem like he's on his way back. If he's not back, he's on his way. He's definitely closer to being back than he has been in any other, time in the last couple of years. He looks healthy again. I mean, his clothes look like they fit him again.
Yeah, he looks pretty stout. I mean, he looks like a strong dude right now.
Yeah, so he's bulking back up a bit, hopefully without any performance enhancements. But no, he, he's looking healthy, like I said. He's hitting the ball hard again, hitting it far. Heard a lot about the ball speed this weekend. Yeah. So apparently he's hitting the ball harder than, some of the big names on the tour right now, harder than they did last year.
U.S. Open champion Justin Thompson, I think they were teeing off together there on one of the things, and their swing speed, the ball speed that was leaving there was the same. And Tiger had a higher apex. He was driving a little bit higher, and his ball went further than some of the young guys there. And he played 4 rounds without any pain. He wasn't, grimacing any in the middle of the rounds. Round 3 was a little bit tough for him. The wind was blowing on that one. I think what you're really seeing right now with Tiger's game is the short game is missing. So some of his chip shots came up about a foot or two short. He still shot an 8 under. So, I mean, he finished 9th in this tournament. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive. I think what the key is to this is the Tiger thinks that he's Superman again, and he goes and gets in a lot of events, is really what got him in trouble last year. He took a long flight over to Dubai. The back locked up on him, and he wasn't right the rest of the season after that. So if Tiger can get his schedule right, space out the events, maybe just say I'm going to do the 4 majors and then fill in with about 6 warm-up events in between there, I mean, I think that would be good for Tiger, and it wouldn't wear his back out there. But, I mean, he is swinging super hard for a 41-year-old, 40-year-old, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, if he can hold up there, I could see him winning a couple events next year. Ricky Fowler went ahead and won that event, 18 under. He shot a course record 61 on the final round. He was impressive in that one. But golf is better when Tiger is back.
definitely glad to see Tiger back. So you get the red shirt Sunday's back, fist pump is back, the 265-yard 2-iron's back. So I believe Tiger's on his way back.
Trav hasn't been too impressed with the defense in the NBA to start the season. In episode 14, he calls out the lack of it after the Rockets had a huge offensive explosion versus the Suns.
Now, the West, that's really exciting. I was watching a game last week there with Houston taking on Phoenix Suns. Houston caught fire in that first half and ended up scoring 90 points by halftime. James Harden was going crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. 90 points in the first half. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, on pace to do 180. They didn't quite get there. I think they got to about 140, 145. But really, offensive production is up this year. What's it coming from, Trav? Is it the rules in place or just the three ball?
Yeah, just no defense.
No defense at all. The rules right now, it makes it hard to play defense. I mean, you can't hand check. The floor is so wide open. And, I mean, these guys are shooting threes and making a lot of them too.
Yeah, it's early in the season. These guys are playing 82 games, so it's not a lot of defense being played right now. Unless it's just a real big, unless it's just somebody they don't want to be shown up by. So just not a lot of D. So obviously that's being shown there with 90 points in the first half.
Yeah, and the 76ers, they went a little crazy there in the game against Golden State. They got out to 47 points in the first quarter of that game, but they somehow managed to lose that game. Golden State got hot in the second half. Steph Curry got hot in the third quarter, and Golden State was able to pull that one out. A young team in Philadelphia. They probably got to go through some of this and learn, but you think if you got out to a hot start like that, you'd be able to hold on and win the game.
Yeah, like you said, just a young team, just not knowing how to finish. So, like you said, just young, but they do have some talent on that team, and they're sitting at 8-7 right now. So you may see some more out of them throughout the rest of the year here.
As much as Josh and Trav like talking about college football, I couldn't leave out this clip from the Iron Bowl game and Pitt's upset over Miami from episode 15.
All right, Trav, first game we got to talk about was the Iron Bowl. It was one that a lot of people had Alabama as the favorite. I think there was a guest picker on College Game Day, Charles Barkley. He said that didn't have to worry about this. Auburn was going to go ahead and take care of business.
He called it.
He called it, and they did. They did. They took care of business. This really wasn't even a close game. Auburn didn't leave anything to worry about.
Yeah, it really wasn't a close game. Not as close as the score indicated it was, and I think like we've talked about in previous episodes, we kind of had different opinions on this. You felt like if Hurst ever did get down by more than a couple touchdowns, it was going to be hard for him to throw every down. I kind of disagreed with you. I thought he had it in him, but after this week, he definitely showed me he needs to work on that, standing in the pocket and delivering that football.
He didn't have it in at this game. Only about 112 yards passing, 54% completion. He only had 17, I think, completion attempts. They needed to throw the ball a little bit more. They needed to show that they could throw the ball a little bit more. They had a couple big plays passing, but it was mostly their rushing game. Now Hurts, he did get loose on the ground a little bit. I believe he had close to 100 yards on the ground. But yeah, I mean, Auburn, they're just playing really good right now. I think probably the last 8 weeks, you'd say they're the best team in America. At least I would say that they're the best team in America right now.
Yeah, definitely. That Auburn D-line, man, they're just so big and fast, and they continually applied pressure to Hurts, like you said, and they forced him to throw the ball once Alabama got down by a couple scores. So I think Hurts only finished up with about 177 yards throwing through the air. But the thing that really stood out to me was the way that Kerryon Johnson ran the football.
Yep.
I mean, he was a beast. This guy had 30 carries. I mean, that's a workhorse-like effort right there. He had 104 yards. So even though he did get injured towards the end of the game, I think he said he will be ready to play this weekend in that SEC championship game. So just a great effort by him and just all around by that Auburn offense and defense.
Yeah, I mean, Auburn's got 2 losses on the year, but they are going to be playing in that SEC championship game. I think with Auburn's schedule, to have 2 losses on there, that's about as good as you could expect. I mean, the schedule makers were brutal to them this year. They played Georgia, Clemson, Alabama, LSU. I mean, just tough teams week in and week out to get up and try to face. So coming out of some of those big games with only 2 losses on the year, very impressive. They'll be matching up against Georgia in the SEC championship game. Now, one team that's not going into their championship game on a hot streak, that's the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, Miami came out and it looked like they were just playing not to lose that football game. And then you had Pitt on the other hand with the freshman quarterback. They just came out and played to win. They came out like they didn't have anything to lose, and it showed up on the field, and they came out with the victory over the Hurricanes. So just a big win by the Pitt Panthers there.
Definitely. And you kind of hinted at it last show. You said it was an early start. You said it was at Pittsburgh. It was going to be some colder weather.
Weather.
One thing that we really hadn't talked too much about that Miami team, they're young. They're freshmen and sophomores, so they're really overperforming this year as to what a lot of people expected they should be doing. So you finally saw one game, I think, where the youth showed and they just weren't up to play. Pittsburgh took advantage of it.
Definitely. Miami quarterback Rozier, kind of had a mediocre type game. Had some plays here and there, but when it came down to it, they turned the ball over, which is unlike them the last few games, something they hadn't really done a lot of, and they just didn't force those big defensive plays like they had been doing.
Yep.
Turnover chain wasn't in really heavy rotation.
Not this game, nope.
Not this weekend. So they did come up with the big onside kick late in the game. Kind of got a little momentum there, but just not enough time left, and then just couldn't get it done there in the end.
No, that loss, they're still atop their division in the ACC, so they're going to face Clemson. Big game coming up there. That'll have some huge implications.
Huge.
We'll get into that a little bit later.
Now let's wrap up this Best of Us show with a big dummy from episode 13.
Dummy. You big dummy. You big dummy. You big dummy. You big cold-blooded dummy. You big dummy. See what you did? Oh, no, you big dummy. Oh, no, you big dummy.
All right, Josh. So as you have probably heard, we did have an incident over in China with involving some of the UCLA basketball players. One of those players being Lonzo Ball's younger brother, LiAngelo Ball. Seems that LiAngelo Ball, as well as 2 other of his UCLA teammates, were caught shoplifting over in a store over in China. So
that's definitely not a smart move.
Yeah, not a smart move, especially when the guys with you are 6'8" and 6'10".
It's hard to not stand out there.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to shoplift when you're that tall. Not saying that you got to be short to shoplift, but
had a little disadvantage there, huh?
Yeah, it's a little tough. Yeah, not a smart move by LiAngelo. So I guess they're still locked up over there.
Yeah, UCLA already flew back the rest of the team, but those 3 guys are locked up in another hotel. I think even Trump had to mention this with the president when they met there, hoping to maybe expedite the process. But I don't know. I've even seen some reports coming out that it could be 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, what was that I saw earlier there? Yeah, they're facing 3 to 6 years. So I guess, China doesn't play with the shoplifting over there. But, come on, LiAngelo. Your younger brother's driving what's he driving?
A Ferrari,
Lambo.
Yeah.
Your other brother's in the NBA. Come on, man. Just get one of them to hook you up with some Louis V sunglasses, bro. Come on, man. We got to hit you with it.
You big dummy.
All right, Josh, and our second big dummy of the week has got to go to Josh Beckett. Josh Beckett is a former Red Sox pitcher. He was arrested early Saturday after he leaped at and tackled a country music singer in a band at a country music festival on open mic night. So Beckett, 37, was arrested for public intoxication, and a police officer said he was a danger to himself and others. So, and they've even got a photo of my man Josh Beckett leaping in the air mid-flight here, tackling this guy. So, to top it all off, the singer that he tackled is saying now that he suffered some pretty serious injuries. So looks like he's hurt his arm and his neck, tore his rotator cuff, and dislocated his shoulder. So looks like this guy's got some physical therapy visits in his future here. So not a good look for Josh Beckett.
Not at all. I like his defense, though, in that he said he was not trying to tackle the guy. He was just actually stage diving.
Yeah, just horse playing with him. So that's some serious horse playing when you're tearing a dude's rotator cuff. So we got to hit Josh with it.
You big dummy.
Thanks for listening to the Best of Us If It's Sports podcast. And if you enjoy the show, please help Josh and Trav out with a subscribe on your favorite platform. To find all listening services and social media accounts to follow, check out our website, ifitsports.com. Select the Listen To podcast link from the top menu. And remember, if it's sports, we're talking about it.